Regional forms are one of the newer traditions Pokemon have started. Introduced in Generation 7, these new Pokemon are different forms of existing Pokemon, based on the ecosystem and environments of the region they were introduced in. Alolan Exeggutor thriving in the tropical climates of Alola. And ever since then, every new region so far has introduced their own sets of regional forms, including Hisui, which was basically just Sinnoh at one point. But after seeing that, I've always wondered, why were these forms just limited to a single region? There's no reason Exeggutor should only exist in Alola. Surely any region with ample sunlight and the perfect temperature should be enough. Does that mean that the only time we'll ever see these Pokemon out in the wild will be when their introductory game's inevitable remakes come out? That's just too sad of an existence. And I really wish Game Freak would retcon that part of the lore a little bit so that Alolan Exeggutor can roam the planet once again. Well, aside from the locations that are specifically built to be a nature preserve. And then I realized that I have the power of parallel universe hopping and money. So I bought them all a plane ticket to Paldea and decided to see how well they'll do in a hardcore Nuzlocke. Well, as long as they have their visas approved. You know what the rules of a hardcore Nuzlocke are, but to summarize, we can't use items in battle, we'll be playing on set mode, and we can't overlevel our Pokemon past the next gym leader. I won't be using Hisuian forms, as while they do count, I already have an entire video dedicated to them, with the one exception, but I'll explain my reasoning when we get there. And I also kind of recorded this a week before the Indigo Disc DLC came out, so we won't get access to Pokemon that were reintroduced with the DLC, which unfortunately includes Alolan Exeggutor. Well, it's actually only Exeggutor. Sorry buddy, back into the void you go. So we can actually get our first Pokemon the moment Nemona unshackles us from her right hand. Our starter this time being Patatas Bravas, the Pooper. She had a pretty good run during my weakest Pokemon Nuzlocke, but Clotta never really had a chance to shine. I considered using regular Wooper instead as it's the one that's not native to Paldea, but then decided against it as it's technically not a regional form. Since I don't know what starter makes the game harder for me, I as usual gave Nemona Sprigatito as Meowscarada gets an always critting move, which can be pretty scary. We can sweep her with Patatas as Portme can't touch him. After spending an hour getting adjusted to school life, we immediately hop countries to get our next encounter. We don't even need to battle anyone, turning right around to find a nearby cave with Geodude. We can trade him for his Alolan cousin, so hopefully no one should suspect a thing at first glance. And flying back, we'll also catch Wiglet. Wiglet isn't a regional form, but convergence function basically identical to regionals, with a different typing yet similar stats. And like, when else will I ever use them? And that gives us our team for the first gym. Poke is able to set up a Rock Polish to double his speed, set up a Defense Call to increase its defense, but more importantly, double the power of our next move, Rollout, which doubles in power with every successful hit, proceeding to sweep through our whole team. Unfortunately, our battle against the first Titan won't be nearly as easy, since Clorf has amazing stats for an early game boss, and we get no new Pokemon yet. Well, we got 2 Pokemon strong against Rock, so we should be fine. Go on Churro, prove yourself to me. Churro is a water type, but I opt to use the ground type Mud Slap, which is still super effective but far weaker. However, the main draw is that it also lowers the opponent's accuracy. Okay, Vice Grip does a lot. Well, I don't really want either of my other Pokemon taking an attack, so maybe we can fish for a miss? And he traps Churro in. Well, go on Churro, let's see what your strongest move can do. We Speed Tie. And of course, no miss. Well, her sacrifice wasn't in vain as Patatas comes in and uses a few super effective mud shots. The accuracy drops mattering as after Clorf goes below half HP, it triggers its ability Anger Shell, increasing attack and speed, but lowers its defense. And I've never acknowledged how difficult of a fight this could be early on, depending on your encounters. Churro's accuracy drops allows Patatas to dodge the Vice Grip, and another mud shot ends the first phase. We have to do this twice, but we get Arven for the second phase, so this battle goes far smoother. Shota having super effective moves while also being a meat shield. It even lands the winning blow. Maybe next time, Patatas. Well, not even on our second badge, and we're already on our first death. Well, truth be told, we actually did have one more encounter available. One that would have been helpful with Clorf, but I was actually trying to hold off on catching him for a reason. But I don't think we can beat Brassius with just these two. In the plains just past Artisan, we can catch ourselves a Tauros. We've got a low level cap, but as it turns out, the lowest level Tauros actually fits within the cap, meaning it's eligible. I wanted to hold off as in this game, Tauros has 3 different forms, the base one, and a unique form for both Scarlet and Violet. The unique one, however, is only available further into the game at higher levels, so we can only catch it after earning a few more badges, so no firefighting Tauros for us. At least the stats are identical. Onto Brassius. Or Churro can drag us into the depths of hell. I guess we're now living our lives as a Wiglet. This is like the third time on this channel I've used a Pooper to sweep Brassius. Same as always, we set up a couple of layers of Toxic Spike, and since our Pooper has a Poison Terror type, Terrasilize to wall grass moves, switch out to Hermon since we kept being put to sleep, and then finish Petilil off. Smoliv is also part normal, so one double kick. And with Sudowoodo out and being badly poisoned, switch between Hermon and Patatas, predicting either Trailblaze or Rock Throw, until Pseudo succumbs to the poison. Looking back on this, I think I would have needed Paldea and Taurus regardless, cause like, what was Churro, a water type, gonna do against the grass gym? No wonder she was trying to take me down with her earlier. I let her die for no reason. Well, fret not, Churro, with 2 badges and our level cap getting a significant boost, a whole load of new encounters open up for us. So I would have just gotten rid of you after the grass gym anyway. I've basically given you free screen time. Well, the first thing that we can do is pay another visit to Kitakami to grab a few Pokemon that couldn't quite make it all the way to Paldea. With a level cap of 24, we can now catch a Vulpix. Level 14. Wow, Churro really did need to die, did she? And also Sandshrew. But alongside these, we can actually catch a new convergent Pokemon native to Kitakami, Matcha Malibu, the Poltergeist. It is dead on the level cap though, so we probably can't use her for now. Not a problem, since as it turns out, Toadschool spawned in Kitakami too. I was gonna catch one soon enough, but Pyala can join the team early, giving us a full party. I also called a Pichu, but I won't be allowed to use her until she's a Raichu. To get the elephant out of the way, yes, I could pretty much evolve all of them immediately, finding their respective evolutionary items in the overworld, thanks to the open world nature of the game, without us needing to battle a single Pokemon. But that might make things a bit boring, so I'll only grab their items if we're there at an appropriate level compared to the surrounding wild Pokemon. But with the full house, we can take on the next Tyson, Bombardier. Poi pretty much walls Bombardier, being able to use the same defense call rollout tactics as Poke. By the second phase, he'd already taken a lot of damage, so while at his type disadvantage, we used Hermon as a switch-in so that we could lower Bombardier's attack by 2 stages with his ability Intimidate, pretty much disarming her. With Arven attacking her in the meantime, we can help out with the headbuzz and let Arven finish the job. Arven's surprisingly one of the more helpful doubles partners that we've had in Pokemon. He even actually uses Pokemon with a type advantage. Are you taking notes, Barry? And that leaves us with the first team star member before the next gym. Poignant goes down to a couple of mudshots, but still manages to bring Patatas, now Clotta, below half. Well, as the Revavroom comes out, we were going to switch into Hermon anyway to lower its attack with Intimidate. Well, I guess we've pretty much won this. Unless it uses Swift, a special move getting a crit, leaving Hermon alive on 2 HP. At least we were able to bring it all the way into red, so we can wrap up with the rollout from Poke. I'm not sure why I risked that 10% mischance. With the 2 mini-bosses out of the way, we have the pass to take on the Levencia gym, but before that, we can actually go a bit past Levencia into the quarry to catch ourselves a Diglett, and a Meowth, which actually gives us 2 more Pokemon since it has 2 regional forms. Is anyone else a little upset that they didn't continue the trend of giving Meowth a new form every game? I mean, I don't know if I can call it a trend with it only happening in 2 games, but still. We can evolve Lomi Lomi immediately with it being a friendship evolution. I also grabbed Slowpoke, he'll also give us 2 new forms, but since its Evo items aren't available yet, I'll be using the standard form's Evo level, which is 37, so it'll be a while until he sees the light of day. Well, Nemona forces us into a battle before challenging the gym, but Patatas sweeps. With it having a type advantage against both the Rockruff and Pawmi, and a stab poison jab for Florigato, we can end the battle before it. We can end Florigato while Patatas is still okay. Well, Patatas didn't hit red at least. Time for Iono. Well, Iono has pretty much consistently been the hardest early game boss battle for me. I almost never have a solid counter for her, and even now it's no different. At the very least, we have a Pokemon that resists Ghost, and one that's immune to Electric. So we can stall, worst case scenario. Before the battle, I went out of my way to battle the local trainers to get the TM for Stomping Tantrum, which I taught to a handful of my Pokemon. I lead with Hermon to lower Wattrel's attack, and I switch into Poke, who hard walls. Oh. Maybe that Intimidate wasn't necessary. God, poor Wattrel. I just feel bad. Next is Bellibold, who is actually hard-walled by Patatas thanks to the ability Water Absorb. There is literally nothing that he can do. Iono, switch out, why are you doing this to him? Luxio lowers our attack with Intimidate this time, so I switch out to Hermon to one-up her, and who also resists the bite. He also gets Stomping Tantrum, so goodbye Luxio. But it's never her first 3 Pokemon that gives us issues. It's Iono's ace, Miss Magius, who upon terrestrialization gains the electric typing, which has no weaknesses thanks to her ability Levitate, making her immune to ground moves. Anticipating Hex, I switch into Lomi Lomi, who tanks. She also has Fake Out, which allows us a free hit on Miss Magius each switch in thanks to it getting a guaranteed flinch, and then into Patatas to absorb the Charge Beam. Patatas is actually specially bulky, so I stay in as we get confused. Well, Patatas pushes through to hit the poison jab. Doing a lot. Alright, Patatas. Bring out Lummy Lummy on the resisted hex. Fake out and then into Patatas, who gets confused on entry. I have no clue why, but I used a yawn the next turn when I could have just gone for the kill. But that doesn't matter, as that pretty much guarantees us the win. Lummy ends the battle with Bite. And that is probably one of the most straightforward INOs I've ever had. I guess after a year, this battle's pretty much been solved. Granted, Clotsar is one of the best Pokemon that you get to deal with her, so the cards are on our side. Right after having one of the harder early game boss battles, we have two more. Well, the first one's difficulty comes from seeing Orthworms facing pain as we kick its head in. But Mela has actually proven to be a consistently tough battle for me, if I don't have the exact counters. Also, while in the quarry, I picked up a Thunderstone, meaning we can now add Malasada the Alolan Raichu to the team. Raichu is a great Pokemon, hits hard and fast, and with it being a stone evolution, means that we get some amazing moves right off the bat. I hate to say this in front of Poke, but it'll likely also be the only decent electric Pokemon we'll get. Poke functions better as a rock type anyway. Well, with all that said, I have absolutely no clue what I was doing or thinking at the time. I only have the footage and no audio of me speaking. So why I stayed in after seeing how much Flame Wheel did will be an answer lost to time. After setting up a nasty plot, I stand to use the Thunderbolt, which of course doesn't kill, as I let Mela slow cook my poor Malasada just as soon as I got her. Well, that's certainly one way to lose one of the best encounters we'll get for the game. I just didn't want this challenge to be too easy. Yeah. Well, Patatas comes in and finishes off the turtle. And the reason we didn't start with Poke was because after lowering Revavroom's attack with Hamon a couple of times, Poke walls. Well, Hamon was tanking pretty well, so I decided to just stay in with him, and okay, that's Mela. Is Taurus that good of a Pokemon, or have I just always over-exaggerated the difficulty of Mela? I mean, Torkoal setting up the sun for Revavroom is pretty scary if you have frail Pokemon. Well, I guess we didn't need to keep Poke healthy after all. Malasada, you helped us stall that extra turn of sun. The sole reason Hamon could stay in long enough to bring down Revavroom. Your death wasn't for nothing. Promise. Unfortunately, Malasada happened to be the best mon for the next gym, meaning now we actually have to think a little. Thankfully, there's a brand new Pokemon that I really wanted to try out, which we called earlier, who has the type advantage, and we also have the means of evolving her. Back in Kizakami, near the plains where we caught Sandshrew, there's a cave holding an unremarkable teacup, and this can be used to evolve Matcha Malibu into a Sinistcha, who even gets a signature move, Matcha Gotcha, which is a better Giga Drain with a chance to burn, but only with a 90% accuracy. Not exactly a replacement for Malasada, but she should do. I'm gonna be honest, I've played through this game like 15 to 20 times now, but I've hardly taken the time to explore the region since my first playthrough, over a year ago when these games came out, and I was in awe that there was a whole beach I had never seen before. You know, I think the open world can really be a good step forward for Pokemon, but I really wish they did more with it. Like, give me a reason to come here and find this place. Now that I'm here, what's there to do? Get the TM for Metronome? Like, introduce some side quests to the game or something, or limit some rare encounters here. Never have I reacted so fast before. I usually don't bother with the shiny claws in my challenge runs, especially in videos. I think it's always funnier just to kill them off. But this is just a little too perfect, isn't it? Chura couldn't rest peacefully knowing how easily she was killed off, so in order to get even more screen time, she was reincarnated as a shiny Wiglet, just so I'd feel a little more obligated to use her. And I can't help but feel that if I treat her efforts lightly, I'll be cursed. Well, sadly she won't be too useful in this gym, so she'll have to stay out of the spotlight a little longer. And this battle is for Matcha Malibu, a brand new Pokemon I haven't really got to try yet. Veluza outspeeds and has a super effective Pluck, which we tank pretty well, and Matcha Malibu misses her first Matcha Gotcha. Not the best debut. Well, we can eat one more, and Matcha Gotcha this time hits, picking up the one-shot. We even restore back a significant amount of HP. Wugtrio is walled, water not being effective and normal being ineffective, so hit another Matcha Gotcha for another one-shot, and recover our HP back to full. Well, Crabominable is a nice type, but it has no ice moves, so once it tears into a water type, we wall. And even get the burn with Matcha Gotcha. It does say 2 this time, however, and that's Kofu. Honestly, I could have just skipped over this one, but this was Matcha Malibu's debut. Look how well she did. But next up is Atticus, and I usually struggle against Atticus too, but this time we have some pretty good counters. so he's a lot easier. Lao the Diglett has now evolved into the magnificent Alolan Dugtrio, who is the perfect counter for poison types. But she does take a lot from Skuntank's priority Sucker Punch, with our Stomping Tantrum not quite getting the kill. Well, we get a free switch into Poke as Sucker Punch fails if we don't attack, and after tanking the next, use a Volt Switch to finish up while also getting a free switch back into Lao. Revavroom falls to a 4 times effective Stomping Tantrum, and Muck falls to 2. Mud Slap being super effective but weak move coming off a weak special attack. And with the final Revavroom out, we can switch into Chippy the Berserker, the evolved form of Galarian Meowth, who takes a super effective Flame Charge that does barely anything. In return, we can use a few Iron Heads bringing Rev below half, and then switch into Potatoes when Chippy gets low, who eats Rev's attacks, eventually finishing it off with a Stomping Tantrum. Well, sadly what this means is that Larry won't be getting too much screen time either. Our team pretty much counters his own. Hamon takes care of Kamala and Dunsparce with a super effective Raging Bull, and Poke hardwalls Staraptor, who really should have gotten close combat. However, Rhyme isn't as simple, with us only having one Pokemon who has the type advantage. I could have actually gotten one more, but despite seeing him in battle earlier, I completely forgot that he was in the game until later on. We lead with Poi and Lomi. Shadow Sneak is quite weak, but Lomi's Snarl misses Bayonet, at least breaking Mimikyu's disguise, and Icy Wind lowers both of our speeds. I was expecting Shadow Claw to do a lot more, but even with a crit, it couldn't pick up the kill on Mimikyu. Well, Lomi's able to use a Spread Snarl, picking up the kill, but Bayonet still survives, only for Poi to solve that issue. This wasn't the best planning on my part, as now Houndstone comes out, along with the Ace Toxtricity, and if you didn't know, after she terrestrializes, Rhyme gets an Omni boost for both of her Pokemon if we can't wrap up the battle in one turn, which of course, we can't. Both Pokemon are terrifying, with Tox about to fire off strong electric and ghost moves, and Houndstone now getting a free 150 BP ghost move, Last Respects, which increases in power the more ally Pokemon are fainted. Basically no Pokemon wants to stay in this turn, and sadly I think the two on the field are the least useful in the long term, so we stay in. As Tox uses a strong discharge, bringing both mons below half, Houndstone doubles into Lomi with a super effective Play Rough, putting her down. I made sure both Pokemon targeted Tox, so Poi's able to use a super effective Shadow Claw, bringing her into the red, and here comes the Omni boost. Now with a boost to all of their stats, pretty much all of our Pokemon are now in danger. I bring in Halpia, as to be honest, Ninetales is just not a good Pokemon without its hidden ability to set up Hail. Well, we at least know that Poi's likely being targeted, so I switch him out for the healthy Hamon, as Tox uses a strong discharge, bringing both of our mons below half, but even hitting its partner, landing a Paralysis. That could have actually saved us a Pokemon. Dazzling Gleam hits both opposing Pokemon, bringing Houndstone low and finishing Toxtricity off. And Houndstone can't move thanks to Paralysis. Either Hamon or Halpia managed to escape death this turn, and we can finish Houndstone off with a Stomping Tantrum, earning us the 6th badge. That could have gone far worse. If Houndstone with a speed boost outsped our remaining Pokemon, it could have swept. Last Respects is a busted move, banned from the competitive Pokemon format Smogon. And unlike the usual suspects, this is a move that the AI can actually take advantage of. I can't imagine how bad Rhyme could have been if she was just a regular singles battle, with Houndstone being the last mon that comes out, a free 200 BP ghost move. Well, with that battle out of the way, the next few are actually quite straightforward. Great Tusk is a great Pokemon, but has very low special defense and is completely walled by Machamalabu. Okay, well it does get a super effective knockoff, but look at that damage. Before challenging Tulip, the Psychic Gym Leader, I catch 2 poison types. One I could have gotten a lot sooner, Grimer outside of Port Mariana, and once again, back in Kitakami, a Coughing. Coughing won't be too useful yet, but Locomoco the Alolan Grimer comes attached with the Dark typing, making him immune to Psychic, and also only giving it 1 weakness to Ground. Nemona is once again swept by Hamon, and then we can just use our brand new Poison type, Locomoco, to wall Meowscarada, and then one shot with a Gunk Shot. Wow, it feels weird not to feel impending doom every time Nemona challenges me. What having Pokemon that I'm actually allowed to evolve does for us, huh? While we've got some pretty good Pokemon for Tulip, she isn't exactly free. For a Giraffe is entirely walled by Locomoco, but sets up a Reflect, cutting our attacks by half. And then the Mad Lad lands a crit anyway, getting the one-shot. However, Gardevoir is where trouble begins. I stay in as we have a super effective move, and are pretty bulky especially, but Gardevoir does surprisingly a lot with the neutral Dazzling Gleam, our Gunk Shot not getting the kill thanks to Reflect, but we do get the poison. Now I figured there wasn't much reason for Locomoco to take even more damage. I can just switch into Chippy to stall for the poison kill, and out comes Espathra. Under all circumstances, we completely wall with Locomoco, but after eating a Shadow Ball, our special defense gets lowered. While the Reflect wears off and our Crunch could kill, we need Locomoco for Floor Jess. and we're not surviving a neutral attack with our defense lowered. So I switched into Poi, who tanks Shadow Ball less better, while he can survive another, so I stay in for the kill, as Tulip's Ace Florges comes out, and this is where I realized my mistake. See, Florges hits pretty hard, and is surprisingly bulky too. I'm not entirely sure any of my mons can one-shot, or outspeed to two-shot, so we'll pretty much have to take an attack or two. And as it turns out, Florges has no moves for steel types. But do you remember which Pokemon we've been using all this time to shield Locomoco? Our only steel types. So now I have to stay in with the already weak Poi, tanking the Moonblast, leaving him in the red. But our Shadow Claw doesn't even do half. I switch out to Chippy as it's 50-50 if she uses Moonblast or Psychic, and she does more than half to Chippy's remaining HP, meaning the two Pokemon that can somewhat wall her are already unable to take any more attacks, with her still being at over half HP. And now I'm left in a bit of a predicament, where I'm not sure if any of my Pokemon can get the kill from here, and if any of them can even survive 2 more attacks. Ultimately, I decide the safest play is to sack Poi, a Pokemon who is honestly not that great, so that I can do some damage with Machagotcha using a Shadow Ball, and then sack Halpia so I can safely pick up the kill with Locomoco. I say safely, but god, look at that damage. A crunch earns us the 7th badge. I took this battle for granted and ended up losing 2 mons just because I didn't plan the first few turns properly. If I had basically just reserved my steel type specifically for Florges, I could have done this deathless. So we lost our only 2 ice types, but honestly, they weren't gonna really do much against the upcoming battles anyway. But with our level cap well above 40, we can add 2 new Pokemon to the team. T the Galarian Slowking and Scone the Galarian Slowbro. This technically is me breaking the species clause, but like when else am I ever gonna use both of them? I'll at the very least only keep one of them on me at a time. Grusha on the opposite end of the spectrum is completely swept by Hamon. Rock Slide for the one-shot on Frostmoth, Bulk Up on the Beartick, Raging Bull through the rest of his Pokemon. And with that, we have already beaten every gym in the game. However, before taking on the Elite Four, we still have a few more badges that we need to round up. The first on the list being from the Fairy-type Team Star Boss. Machagotcha gets a Azumarill, and Locomoco goes on a rampage on his next 2 Fairy Pokemon, with Gungshot picking up 2 one-shots. I swear he has yet to miss a single one. Well, this Revavroom is completely walled by Steel types, so not making the same mistakes as last time, bring out the still healthy Chippy, and pelt away with a couple of Iron Heads until he goes down. Honestly, I don't think I've ever struggled against Ortega. Even Dondozo gets got with the Machagotcha, and Toastwitch the Galarian Weezing can whittle away at Tetsugiri with super effective Dazzling Gleams. Though because of his weak special defense, we need to switch out, so I bring in Scone thinking he can tank, but then falls to a Dragon Pulse from over half HP. I'm so sorry. I thought you'd be bulkier. Patatas comes in to finish up. Well, we lost Scone, but it's the T that we care about. We'll lead with Patatas to take care of Ares' Poison Toxicroak, who manages to bring him below half. But out comes Annihilate, who we need to be careful playing around. He gets the ghost move Rage Fist, which increases in 50 BP every time he takes an attack. So ideally, we want to finish him off in a couple of moves, before turning it into a last respect situation. I bring out Chippy anticipating the Ice Punch, and then switch out to T, who 4 times resists the close combat, also lowering Annihilate's defenses. Now while Rage Fist is super effective, it's only 50 BP, so we should be able to— oh god. Okay, crits make it scary. But a super effective Psychic, with the lower defenses, gets the one-shot. Lucario also falls to a couple of Patatas Earthquakes, but now he's getting low. Passimian's walled pretty well against Toastwitch, and a few Dazzling Gleams take care of him, leaving us with the Starmobile, who this time is actually pretty scary. It gets Shift Gear, which doubles its speed while also increasing its attack, and also gets the ability Stamina, which increases defense every time it's hit by a move. But we have the power of Matcha Malibu on our side, a Pokemon immune to fighting moves, and also resists its ground-type high horsepower, leaving it only with Spin Out, which lowers its speed. But that's not even the best part. While setting up a Calm Mind, Rev sets up a Shift Gear, the terrifying move that we spoke about earlier, and then the next turn, it even outspeeds to use another, but Matcha Malibu doesn't care. She uses a Strength Sap, lowering its attack, while also using its attack to recover back all of our health. Spin Out does a pathetic amount, and a few Machagotchas later, we've got ourselves the final badge. I've been playing this game a little bit too close for comfort, but gotta get the adrenaline pumping with the vanilla game somehow, right? Well, with all the badges, we can take our first steps into tackling the endgame by challenging the Pokemon League. Well, before taking on the Elite Four, we can catch one more Pokemon. Now, while I said I wouldn't be using Hisuian forms, we can find Hisuian Basculin swimming naturally in the Kitakami wilds. It would feel wrong not to use her. Also, Basculegion really needs some revenge after her last performance. So, after eradicating the local population of Vulpix with the Wave Crash, taking just enough damage to trigger the Evo conditions, Tempura evolves into Basculegion and we're ready for the league. First up on the chopping block is Rika. Whiscash goes down to a 4x effective Machagotcha, and as you switch out to Tempura, Camerupt uses a Yawn. Camerupt 2 goes down to a 4x effective Surf, and then Tempura falls asleep. I let Machomalabu take care of Ductrio too, but he hits first with a super effective Sucker Punch, before we can one-shot with the Machagotcha, and recover that HP back. Donphan survives on 1 HP thanks to Sturdy, and uses Stone Edge, which also crits, not even doing half. A Shadow Ball finishes it off, and a few Machagotchas later, Clotsar 2 goes down. Poppy 2 isn't really ever that tough, though without a fire type, it's likely not a clean sweep. Close Combat gets the one-shot on Copperaja, but Corviknight is neutral to fighting. Into Poke expecting Brave Bird, but the next turn it uses an Iron Defense, doubling its defense. Thunder Punch doesn't do nearly as much, so staying to Volt Switch out onto another Iron Defense, bringing out Tempura. A Surf finishes Corviknight off. Expecting an electric move from Magnezone, we switch out to Laulau, but it sets up a light screen instead. It survives the Earthquake thanks to Sturdy, then Embordos finishes it off. Back into Tempura for Bronzong on the Earthquake. I use a Shadow Ball for getting him out the light screen, and we do less than half. Well, it runs out the next turn, and lastly, it's Tinkaton. Well, the one Pokemon strong against Steel and Fairy has already taken some damage, so is the Potatoes who resist the Play Rough, and now can stay into Yawn, and oh god, Gigaton Hammer did far more than I was expecting. At least she can't use it twice in a row, so into Laulau on the Play Rough as she falls asleep. Now a couple of Earthquakes, and that's Poppy. I moved past it pretty quickly, but we absolutely almost lost Claude. What am I doing? Well, Larry is a little bit more threatening than last time, but we're still really not that scared. While we are at a type disadvantage, what's Tropius gonna do? It only has Solar Beam, meaning it'll need to charge up anyway. Or it goes down to a single 4x effective Ice Beam. Staraptor can use a heavy Brave Bird, but with that recoil, an adaptability boosted Surf picks up the kill. Altaria 2 is 4x weak to Ice Beam, but I don't want to risk the damage, so into T on the Dragon Pulse. It does less than a quarter, so after tanking one more, Slack Off restores us back to full health. Ice Beam gets the one shot. Oricorio is a joke, so I stay in for an Ice Beam to do over half, and we can survive another, so we slack off. Oricorio wastes a turn using T to dance, but we don't get confused because of our ability. But before taking Oricorio down, I switch out to Poke who walls. And now when Flamigo comes out, I can switch out to T, who tanks the close combat while Flamigo gets the defense drop. I'm still not confident that we can kill from here, so once again do this dance, but this time I switch out to Hamon to lower Flamigo's attack, which gets blocked by its ability. So switch back into Poke as Flamigo uses a close combat instead. Brave Bird was super effective, getting the kill. I guess I should have expected that considering close combat could have killed Hamon from there. But bring Hamon back out, and Rock Slide wraps up the third battle. Well, me trying to be a bit too cautious got my Pokemon killed this time. I'm just off my game today. Larry's aura was just too powerful. Well, without our ice types, dragons are a bit more difficult to deal with, so we'll at least need to be a bit careful when dealing with Hassel. A 4x effective Ice Beam deals with Noivern pretty easily, but Dragalge is pretty specially bulky. Thankfully, we predict the poison move, getting a free switch into Laulau. A single Earthquake gets the one shot. Haxorus is always a pretty scary mon to be up against with a massive attacking stat, but Toast Switch is actually pretty physically bulky, and is immune to ground thanks to Levitate, but gets hit with a weak Crunch instead. I don't know why I assume every Haxorus carries Earthquake. Well, it does have a super effective Steel move, so without Earthquake, Laulau should be safe. So use an Earthquake doing over half, and Haxorus' Crunch gets the kill. Why am I doing this? Well, Laulau's Tangling Hair ability lowers its speed, so Tempura can come in to finish the job with Ice Beam. Flapple 2 is 4x weak, but a Grass move could kill, so into T who tanks. We get seeded, and an Ice Beam picks up the one shot, leaving the ace back Excalibur. We can pretty confidently expect a Glaive Rush, so into Toast Switch who's immune. Then into Hamon to lower its attack on the Icicle Crash. Back to Toast Switch, back to Hamon. Do this one last time, and now Toast Switch can eat back his attacks. A few Dazzling Gleams gets the kill. Oh, okay. The next one. Toast Switch. Alright, he misses one. And Dazzling Gleam does less than half. Thankfully no more flinches and we put him in the red. But now we need someone else to clean up. Who better than Hamon? And that's the Elite Four done with. Hassel can actually be quite tough without good dragon counters. We were basically relying on the attack drops from Hamon. But Geetha, I'm not expecting much. Geetha leads with Espathra as we lead with Chippy who resists both of her attacks. Lunar Crash, however, halves our special defense. We should be able to take one more, so as we survive in the red, a Shadow Claw finishes the spot throw off. With Avalugg out, I switch into Tempura, anticipating the body press, and because of Avalugg's low special defense, a couple of surfs get the kill. Next is Kingambit, who has the boost from 2 fallen allies, but we know a dark move's coming, so into Hamon, who lowers its attack, and a 4 times effective close combat gets the one-shot. Gogut goes down to a gunk shot into an ice punch from Lokomoko, and Veluza to a Shadow Ball from Tempura, leaving us alone with Glamora. I didn't know if we could get a kill from full, so I switched out to Potatoes, expecting a poison move. As we get hit with a super effective Earth Power. Alright Geetha, you did good there I guess. But we can tank one more, so I send for a Yawn, switch out to Matcha Malibu as Glamora falls asleep, and we Matcha Gotcha the top champion of the Paldea region. God, Matcha Malibu is a beast. That was from full. Underwhelming as always, but they did manage to get 2 of my Pokemon this time, so I'll give them that. But as with all of my runs, the hardest part of these games are the last few battles. First up's Clavel, who's the easiest of the bunch. Oranguru did go down to a couple of crunches, but then put Tom to sleep. Thankfully I always give my lead to Chesterberry for this battle, so Lokomoko is wide awake for a Bummer Snow. This is important as we need to one-shot with Fire Punch, otherwise it manages to set up an Aurora Veil, halving all of our attacks. Or it can just outspeed anyway. With a defense boost from Hail and the Veil, our 4 times effective Fire Punch does about a third, but gets the poison I guess. Blizzard still does almost half to Chippy, who resists Blizzard, but at this point we're going for the Poison Stall, which we can also do by forcing it to miss a turn with Fake Out. How does it also outspeed Chippy? And Ironhead finishes it off. With Houndoom out, it's a special someone's time to shine. Go on Churro, show them what you're made of. Wow, that was not very effective. A super effective Liquidation gets the one-shot. Yay! Back in the ball. Amongst Us is walled against Lokomoko and goes down to a couple of Ice Punches, and that move. Well, like I said, it still can't do anything. Ice Punch. Poltergeist 2 is weak to Lokomoko. Crunch gets the one-shot. Quaquaval's the one Pokemon that's kind of scary, but we've got Matcha Malibu. Quack's got the super effective Ice Spinner, but we can use Sap Sipper, lowering its attack while almost completely restoring our HP back, until he can do nothing. Then a few Matcha Gotchas later, we get the win. Well, we can probably do Arven next as he has lower levels, but he can actually be a pretty tough battle sometimes, having a pretty diverse team. But, we have Hamon. Greedent's a pretty sad Pokemon to lead with. We can lower its attack and then set up a couple of bulk ups, increasing our attack and defense. A super effective Psychic Fangs doing a pathetic amount. And close combat, close combat, close combat. We need to save one, and since Garganacl can't really do anything to us, we use a few Zen Headbutts instead. And close combat, and close combat. Oh sorry, did I say Clavel's the easiest battle? That's probably because I didn't even consider Penny as a threat. A whole team of evolutions is cute, but is abysmally weak, especially so when used by the AI. Well, at least unlike Arven, she isn't as weak to a single type. Also, Baby Doll Eyes makes setting up a physical attacker painful. Well, that's about it really. It just makes the battle longer, not more difficult. Close combat on Umbreon, a couple of Earthquakes on Flareon because of a lowered attack, a couple of Matcha Gotchas for Vaporeon, Gungshot Leafeon, Earthquake Jolteon, and Potatoes can jab the shit out of Sylveon. See, just more time consuming. Well, Nemona could really go either way, and I'm not really sure how my encounters fare against her. Once again, Nemona leads with Lycanroc, and I lead with Hamon. Lycanroc sets up the Stealth Rocks as we set up Bulk Up, raising our attack and defense. But the next turn, Lycanroc uses a Drill Run, which gets a crit, pushing past our defenses. Thankfully, the next one doesn't, so a super effective Earthquake gets the one-shot. Pawmort, Earthquake. Dunsparce, close combat. Orthworm, close combat. I don't know why you didn't just send out Goodra first, but close combat. And finally it's Meowscarada. This one has an always critting move, so staying in isn't an option, but we have its natural predator, Lokomoko. Tanking the play rough and using a super effective gong shot gets us the one shot, getting us past the final champion battle. I really started out the post game saying that Clavel was the easiest. Maybe I should just ban setup moves. But I only ever really used them once or twice a battle, and banning setup moves really hurts weaker mons for no other reason than to add another arbitrary rule. I'm not really a big fan of complex bans, so I'm not really big on allowing some mons to set up while banning others. But with those 4 out of the way, we can get to the actual final battle of the game, and rightfully the one that's actually the hardest. Professor Sada uses a full team of Paradox Pokemon which have similar stats and learn sets as legendaries. So surely, a team full of legendaries should prove a worthy challenge. Sada leads with Slitherwing and I send out Matcha Malibu. A neutral lunge does just under half and lowers our attack, while we use the Strength Sap to do the same while recovering back most of our HP. Now we can set up a couple of Calm Minds while using a Strength Sap every other turn. Then we can use a couple of Shadow Balls bringing Slitherwing down while still being close to full health. And with Fluttermane coming out, a usually terrifying Pokemon with this massive special attack and speed. Since we boosted our special defense, we can tank the super effective Shadow Ball and hit back with one of our own for the one shot. And then Sada sends out Screamtail, a psychic type with a disadvantage. She just saw me use Shadow Ball. Well, we are pretty low, so just to be safe, it outspeeds? Oh no, Screamtail. Attacking just isn't your thing, huh? Well, a Strength Sap regains most of our health, and opt to use a Matcha Gotcha, as while it does less damage, we can recover even more HP back each turn. And another one takes Screamtail down while we're still healthy. Matcha Malibu taking down half a team of legendaries all by herself. Well, Brute Bonnet has the type advantage, so we're finally forced to switch out into Lokomoko, who walls. Or so I thought, but apparently it has a ground move. We finally miss a gunk shot. Look, it was about time. Lokomoko was doing amazing. We take another Earth Power, but it crits, leaving Lokomoko in the red. We hit Gunk Shot this time, but it doesn't get the one shot. Well, thanks to Toast Switch having Levitate and being immune to ground moves, it actually walls. So goodbye Bonnet. Next up, Sandy Shocks, and you know what? Why fix what isn't broke? We bring back the Paradox Killer, Matcha Malibu. She resists both of its stabs, but Sandy also gets Flash Cannon, which is neutral. Matcha Gotcha just misses the kill but recovers back all of our HP, and we use a Shadow Ball to guarantee the kill. But finally it's Roaring Moon, and this is the one Pokemon that could turn the tides, regardless of how well you're doing prior. During my Hisuian Pokemon run, it managed to get a reverse sweep, despite me being deathless up until that point, with it getting a boost to its already sky high attack thanks to its item and ability. This isn't a good matchup for Matcha Malibu, but we do indeed have the perfect Pokemon for it. We switch out to Toastowitch, who resists both of its stabs, but is also immune to Earthquake. While being a pretty good physical wall, it hits the only move it can, Stone Edge, leaving Toastowitch alive, and a stab 4 times effective Dazzling Gleam. Doesn't get the kill. Well, that's fine for us, because there's one Pokemon that deserves some redemption. Her naturally surviving, and she can outspeed to use an adaptability boosted, not very effective Aqua Jet, indeed doing enough damage, ending Roaring Moon. And the Nuzlocke. Once again, we got another rare Deathless Sada. I was not expecting Matcha Malibu to be the demon that she became, but after slapping a wide lens on her, making Matcha Gotcha 99% accurate, she ended up being a pretty consistent wall for physical attackers who didn't have the type advantage. I think this could be pretty interesting to do in Pokemon Sword and Shield, since many regional forms introduced there didn't make a return in Scarlet and Violet, and regional forms were given to Pokemon typically not all that strong to begin with. Typically. Nice to have a quick one every now and then, but if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing, and please look forward to more videos in the future.